And maybe they'll also end up attacking here. I mean, it's a little hard to say, though. You're taking massive attrition penalties. And the Workers' Organization and Trade Union. In the aftermath of the Melbourne Commune... Oh, there's been a coup in Ruthenia. Okay, anyways. In the aftermath of the Melbourne Commune and the Revolution of 1925, trade unions were made illegal. While many continued to operate underground alongside the Australasian Labour Party, they were suppressed by the expanded police force in the military districts as well as the Australasian Guard. While it may be spectacle of their ideology, the continued draconian enforcement of Berlin's policies will undoubtedly be an unpopular move. We must consider whether to legalize the unions and seek a compromise with their leaders. Okay, you know what? We will rescind the policies. We'll work with labor for now. We'll suppress the syndicalists who compromise with labor. Political power goes up. Or we suppress the syndicalists, which actually only gives power to the national populace. But, you know, let's compromise with labor. Okay, nationalists couldn't write with any. We'll see if Germany wants to invade. Without the backing of Russia, I can't imagine that they will be too powerful. I feel like Germany would invade in this situation, but we'll see. Because it really does weaken the Reichspakt. Now the Reichspakt actually is not contiguous. I think it does weaken them overall. Okay, Poland has they're social democratic. They're guaranteed by the Germans, so you might actually see Poland just join up with the Reichspakt. And you know what? Let's research the Owen gun. The Empire of Brazil is still at war with the Brazilian Republican Army. 4-8 against 133. I do think the Empire is eventually going to come out on top. There has been a recent upswing in the Labour Party's campaign efforts, as they appear to have a great deal more money in the party coffers than previously thought possible. Australasian police investigators suggest that the money is likely being funneled through the Australasian Council of Trade Unions sent by the Union of Britain. As an effort to support radicals within the Labour Party, well, there is no real evidence of that yet. We loosen stability, syndicalism, and social democracy gets a little bit more popular. But again, the American Union, or not the American Party, the United Australian Party is still by far the most popular party in the country. Rally public supports. Don't really think that's possible. Also, yeah, there's definitely been more than 3 months. It's been like a year and a half. That's okay. We need a chief of staff. I mean, again, we're getting closer to war. Artillery attack. Organization goes up. Max entrenchment's not terrible. A little bit of flat attack and defense and a little bit more population. I think that's actually what we do want, just because of our terrible manpower reserves right now. Right now we're at, I mean, there's a 33% increase to our manpower. Yeah, the national populace in Brazil are like the monarchist faction. The federal government is taking 5 seats. Tibet has been annexed. Yeah, so the federal government right now is looking pretty powerful in China for sure. There will be an event where the UAP loses popularity, while the Popular Center Party took power. So once the event pops up, you can either form a coalition with the Socialists or the Nationalists. Today marks the 150th anniversary of the first fleet landing in Australia. While many mainland Australians are celebrating the day, the native Aborigines are mourning the loss of their land and the suffering of their people. In response, with the assistance of the Australian First Movement, the Aboriginal Progressive Association has held a protest for equal rights, full citizenship, and better education for all Australian Aboriginal people. Jack Patent, leader of the organization and a notable member of the AFM, stated, "Give us a chance. We do not wish to be left behind in Australia's march of progress. We ask for full citizen rights." This protest has garnered mixed reviews, but in turn has gained support from both the Aboriginal population for the AFM, as well as the egalitarian frustrated with left-wing politics. You know, autocracy has gone up just a little bit. Now, is there anywhere we can really move these troops? Not really. We can see that the Kingdom of France has sent some volunteers over here as well. Ireland, I mean, they're now social liberal. Well, maybe they'll actually want to end up joining with the Entente. We'll see. The general strike. The labor situation worsened in Australia today as the ACTU called for general strikes around the country to protest the poor working conditions present in many factories. Some are calling this a ploy for support, and the move has already prompted many leaders in the Australian Guard and elsewhere to call for the government to reverse the decision to allow labor unions. But either way, the strikes are expected to go on for several weeks, so some kind of compromise can be achieved. Okay, very cool. Factory burns in South Australia. One of the largest factories in South Australia burned throughout the night in what is believed to be arson. The factory has reportedly had numerous complaints about working conditions and unfair pay, most of which has gone unaddressed over the last 5 years. The owners deny this and have claimed this is yet another attempt by the Australian Council of Trade Unions to stir up trouble and support for the syndicalist cause. While damage was severe, the ACTU has not claimed any responsibility for the fire, and police are still investigating. Okay, lovely. We hate to see it. Pour some water here. I don't know if that actually picks up the microphone. So, the federal government of the United States, even though they're only fighting a two-way civil war, managed to lose Washington, D.C. Very awesome. Responding to the government's recent decision to legalize trade unions, the newly legitimized ACTU has begun a major push for the next general election. Large crowds have been gathering to hear syndicalist leader Fred Patterson speak, and while pundits don't give the radicals much hope of winning, there's a sense of worry regarding Patterson's growing support. Some ministers have expressed reservation for the legislation, calling it a dangerous experiment. But for the moment, the damage appears to be minimal. We lose a little bit of stability. Our manpower is still absolutely in the freaking gutter. We will put high priority on reinforcements for now. They send volunteers to the United States as well. What we're kind of hoping for is that maybe Canada will just invade the CSA. Because, I mean, they're losing a lot of ground. In response to the general labor unrest which has been plaguing Australasia since the last election, Aaron Campbell today made an impassioned speech for calling for united, determined, and firm action on the part of loyal citizens for Australasia. He says the government has failed in its mandate, and unless severe measures are taken for all of Australasia, will succumb to the chaos and the tides of cynicalism, which is washing across the world. His words caught the attention of many, and already supporting rural parts as well as urban areas in the country are beginning to shift to his center party. Can I send volunteers to you? I mean, how many men do you guys have? 3 to 19. We got 6 to 18 for the Dutch East Indies. And we got these guys just ready to go in Costa Rica, just in case something has to happen around here. Puerto Rico has been incorporated into the West Indies Federation. Are you not at war with somebody else? Nepal. I mean, they're doing okay. I mean, I've seen them do worse. Freedom of the press. You know what? Let's get some freedom of the press going here in, you know, got the Kunming national government. But again, like, how is that going to stand up to the United Provinces of China? Like, they're doing very, very well. The federal government even owns areas, which is a little awkward to look at. You know what? We'll actually transfer these around. Who has claims here? Szechuan. You know, let's give that to Szechuan. Give this to Maklik. Give that to Mongolia. That seems fine. Just to make sure that the national government or the federal government doesn't just own random territory all over the map for no good reason. Well, we'll see if the federal government and the Zilik League, they're actually just having a war against Shaanxi League. No idea when that'll be done. Actually, no, you already have a Casus Belli. So we'll see if the AI actually wants to push that or not. Like, I don't think, like, one volunteer is going to be enough to sway the American Civil War. Like, we would need an entire... a coordinated effort, let's just put it that way. And I don't know when the Canadians would want to do that. I mean, you know, let's go to war with Nepal. Let's go to recall our troops from Carlos, Spain. But I really don't know if he was actually getting that much done to begin with. Okay, full air superiority over here already. How many men have you guys lost in this war so far? 11,000? You know what's actually not that bad. I've seen times that the AI has lost like 200,000 men against Nepal, so 10,000 is basically a drop in the bucket here. We could send troops over there, but I don't know if that's really necessary. Okay, Peru, Bolivia has annexed Paraguay. And Argentina is still at war with Chile and Patagonia. I don't think they will end up winning that war. And you know, let's actually make this army over here its own separate entity. You just stay in this region for right now. I think I do want you to maybe make some moves into Mexico. You have 5 to 39 divisions. Yeah, just prepare a war into, say, I can't tell what province that port's in. Let's just say over here for right now. And how is Guatemala is socialist. The rest, 2 of you are liberal, and 1 of you is an autocrat. We'll see who ends up actually unifying Central America. We're hoping it's probably one of the liberal factions, or at least a country that is opposed to the Internationale. Uh, 1.27 years. 0.7 years. We've already researched you. Let's go for Concentrate Industry 3. Let's go for more industry text right now. Propaganda. You know, we could, yeah, let's go war propaganda. We're at 50%. Let's go to partial mobilization here. Can't increase conscription laws quite yet. But hopefully we'll be able to soon. And the ACTU celebrates deal. The new workers' deal enacted by the government has been a great cause for celebration amongst Australasia's working class and the Australasian Council of Trade Unions specifically. That has led marches across several large cities to commemorate the historic occasion. Speeches by ACTU leaders drew massive crowds where they spoke with obvious fervor about syndicalist ideas and true interest of the working class. Police stood nearby, keeping track of agitators who hurled slurs at the socialists, and there were no reports of incidences. Yeah, definitely if there's anybody goes to war with the Guatemala, I think was the socialist one that was still left. Sending volunteers there does make sense. By the way, how's our tank production? We have 49 heavy tanks. Let's switch you all to be heavy tank. And let's at least train 1 of you up. How many heavy tanks do you actually need for this army? 120. So we have a third of that right now. Okay, and after this, let's start going for the state of the army. Get a little army experience up. And Patterson gives a speech. With the lifting of martial law across Australasia, crowds are once again able to assemble. A fact that syndicalist leader Fred Patterson took advantage of today in Sydney to give a speech that drew a very large crowd, as well as media attention. Patterson spoke for the need for an open dialogue between the unions and the government, and that there was no need to fear the brand of democracy that syndicalism brought. The speech was branded by some as a rambling or radical, though many others said that Patterson's well-spoken manner earned him many new supporters. So, I mean, the syndicalists are now at 22%. I think at this point it might be a little bit too late for the syndicalists to take power. I'm not too sure. And you also now have a cost ability against the Kunming national government. I wonder if you're ever going to push that as well. It's like, I'm sure you would win, so I'm surprised that you haven't done so already. So you have 13 to 27. You actually have the same amount of troops, but you do have your entire faction as well. So I would imagine you should do okay. You're preparing for war against the Internationale. That's nice, but the CSA, I think, is a imminent threat. What we can do Actually, no, China, the Qing actually just declared war on the federal government. Okay, well, that's not really what I saw happening, but okay. So you might even see the federal government end up just winning all of China right now. Or the Qing. I guess that's also theoretically possible. I mean, who has more men here? Again, it doesn't really matter one way or the other for us personally. I mean, you do have more manpower. And Tibet, Mongolia, a lot of like the smaller countries that were annexed in the wars don't have many men. Okay, National Muscat have ended hostilities. I think this year, I believe, is when the war should be breaking out between you guys. Probably by the end of the year, we'll see the Egyptians and the Ottomans at war with one another. Hungary is still holding on, which is, again, bad for us, because we need as much power as we can against the Internationale, and Austria and Hungary wasting all their manpower fighting each other is counterproductive to that goal. We're at 20%. And Nepal's almost dead. You have air superiority. You're not free because they had a war on Portugal. Okay. And farmers request assistance for emu culling. Farmers in Walloon and Burakopen have petitioned the government to help cull a rather large gathering of emus in the area. They asked for planes to drop small bombs on large gatherings, along with soldiers armed with machine guns to shoot down the rest. Similar to the failed attempt in 1932, the Chief Game Inspector, Mr. A. Arnold, stated the situation did not warrant mass extermination of the birds, and that inspectors had not spotted any of the so-called reports of mass gathering. The state government has also denied the request on the basis of Mr. Arnold's observation. Okay, so we're not going to go to war with the emus, unfortunately. Even though I think it would be a war that we would be able to win. We would beat the poop out of the emus for sure. State of the Army is now done. Our election is in about a little bit less than a year. So your recovery rate, war support, the AI modifier doesn't really matter so much to me, but focusing on defense, like, it doesn't make any sense. The only person we'd ever be defending against would be Japan. And pledge right, does not have conscription law, volunteer only. Yeah, so I think we're going to go for the Anderson Doctrine. Infection of British territory in Asia and Pacific. Yeah, I think we want to go for the Anderson Doctrine. Be a little bit hawkish in our foreign policy, as well as in our military affairs. Do we have any good Chief of Army guys? 5%, does a flat 10% attack is always nice. Yeah, let's go for flat 10% attack. Rise of the AFM. Up until this point, the Australasia First Movement, led by Peter C. Stephenson, has been considered a fringe movement filled with disaffected socialists. The rise of chaos inspired by syndicalist forces and with the fortunes of the Australasian Guard, Stephen's word have called new purchase amongst the people of Australasia. Stephenson calls for Australasia to cut its ties with the British Crown to further promote Australasianism and to maintain a neutral stance in global affairs, so to ensure Australasia never marches into another disaster like Gallipoli. They talk grandiose. They talk big. They have a big talk about filling up Australia's vast empty spaces and then dump down the scum of London here. Tells the ardent supporters to hell with the British and to the Empire. So a little bit more support for paternal autocracy. And the Brazilian Republic Army has finally fallen, and everybody's now at war with the Qing government. The thing is, like, unless Japan directly intervenes in this war, the defending government should end up winning, because the Qing are fighting a massive war. And I would not be surprised if Shaanxi also invades Qing relatively soon as well. Okay, so the SRI and Two Sisters are at war. We'll see if any of them end up pulling out there. What do we got? So we're at 24, 5, 24. Just go with more military fact. Like, it just seems to me like the best situation. And as if we can, like, give guns to other countries. Because we have 8,000 rifles, which right now we're not really using because we don't have the manpower to fill up I mean, I guess we have all the guns. But we need 8,000 rifles. Could be beneficial to some of the smaller countries. Okay, Beijing has already fallen to defending government. It's just like Japan, if you just stay out of the war, but they have gone national populist. But if you just stay out of this war, you should be like relatively okay. The casualties are higher for the CSA, but that doesn't really mean much. The Qing are now halfway dead. Oh, yes, let's send these planes back to New South Wales.